Welcome to our few moments together on a discussion of the upcoming Yom Tov of Shavuos. The Yom Tov of Shavuos, of course, celebrates the giving of the Torah that was given to the Jewish people 3,335 years ago. And we have cherished and delighted and lived with this Torah for all those years. Perhaps David HaMelech said it best when he said in Tehillim Kuf Yates, Lule sorascha sha'ashuai, were it not for your Torah, that is my delight, oz ovadati ba'onyi, I would have been lost in all my affliction, in all of the difficulties that the Jewish people have faced. We would have been finished. And therefore he says, La'olam lo eshkach bikudecha, I will never forget your commandments. Ki vamchi yisani, because through them I live. David HaMelech expressed it many hundreds, thousands of years ago. And we see how it's true today. Let's ask ourselves the question that great writers and philosophers have asked over all the years. What is it that gives the Jews their longevity, their greatness? What is it that gives the Jews the ability to withstand all circumstances, no matter the fact that the nations of the world, the greatest of them, have ganged up, so to speak, on the Jews and have beat them down and tried to destroy them, and yet we are still here, as has been expressed by so many writers. Over 300 years ago, King Louis XIV of France asked the great mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal, and he said to him, give me a proof that God exists. And Pascal answered him and said, why, the Jews, your majesty. The Jews. The Jews are a proof that Hashem exists. And this was from a non-Jewish philosopher, mathematician, one of the most brilliant men to walk the face of this earth. And of course, the immortal words of Mark Twain, published in Harper's Magazine in 1899. Listen to what Mark Twain said, and you can get this. It's available on the internet. If statistics are right, wrote Mark Twain, the Jews constitute but 1% of the human race. It suggests a nebulous dim puff of stardust, lost in the blaze of the Milky Way. Properly, the Jew ought hardly to be heard of, but he is heard of, has always been heard of. He is as prominent on the planet as any other people, and his commercial importance is extravagantly out of proportion to the smallness of his bulk. That's not nearly as important as what comes later. His contributions to the world's list of great names in literature, science, art, music, finance, medicine, and abstruse learning are also way out of proportion to the weakness of his numbers. He has made a marvelous fight in this world in all the ages, and had done it with his hands tied behind him. He could be vain of himself and be excused of it. But now comes the most important part of this statement that Mark Twain wrote. The Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, then faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and the Roman followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other people have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now, or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. And Mark Twain ends with the statement, or the question, what is the secret of his immortality? We know that secret. Lule sorascha sha'ashuai. Were it not, as David HaMelech said, for your Torah, that is our delight, my delight, osavadati b'onyi, we would have been lost. And anyone who gives up on this Torah or goes away from it, God forbid, mistakenly, is doomed to be nothing but dust. While the Jew is eternal, and the eternity of the Jew is predicated upon his love of this Torah, this tremendous ahava rabbah, this tremendous love of the Jewish people and its national pastime, the study of the Torah. And that is the secret of our longevity. That's the secret of our existence. That's the secret of our soulfulness. And it's the secret of how the Jews have been able to come back home and build a Torah community, not only all over the world, but in Eretz Yisrael itself. And so when we celebrate the Yontif of Shavuos, and we're enjoying the physical delights that come along with it, the cheesecake and so on, and all the other things, the beauty of the flowers reminiscent of Mount Sinai, which was redolent with the flowers that grew in this barren land. And so too, we too can flower out and grow and produce unbelievably great things as long as we have the loyalty to this Torah. David HaMelech said it thousands of years ago. Blaise Pascal and Mark Twain, lahavdil, said it in their own way. But the secret of the Jewish people is the Torah. And the learning and loyalty of that Torah is what gives us our eternity. May Hashem bless all of Klal Yisrael, that we should be zochet to have this Kabbalah HaTorah on the Yom Tov of Shavuos and continue with the saga of the eternity of the Jew as we welcome, ultimately, the one who's the harbinger of peace on earth, Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mheira v'yameinu. I want to wish everyone a Chag Sameach, filled with all the joy that the Torah brings to all Klal Yisrael. Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom Umevarach.